Our top story, the US economy has bounced back from the COVID-19 pandemic faster than most countries. Thanks mainly to an accelerated vaccine rollout and injections of support last year from the federal government, the recovery has looked much more V-shaped than even the most optimistic forecasters thought likely a year ago. But today we got the first really unsettling news that some of the steam may now be going out of the recovery. The Labour Department said that non-farm payrolls increased by just 266,000 in April. That's barely half the average monthly growth rate in the first 3 months of the year and way below what was expected by most economists. The unemployment rate, which had been falling steadily since it hit a peak a year ago, edged back up in April from 6 to 6.1%. Now, something unusual is going on. Even as unemployment has edged up and remains much higher than it was before the pandemic hit, employers are having a really hard time filling job vacancies. We've heard already on this show this week examples of businesses saying they're almost desperate to find workers, offering hiring bonuses and other benefits. And later tonight in the show, we'll be hearing from a restaurant group that's even offering to pay college tuition to entice workers. And all of this is reflected in the fact that wages are rising strongly. The 1 month rise in April was much faster than had been expected. So we're in a strange position. The economy is recovering, businesses are reopening, employers are looking to fill vacancies, but they can't seem to attract millions of people to work. The total number of jobs in the economy is still 8 million below where it was a year ago. Now, of course, President Joe Biden wants you to believe that this is all good reason to support his plans to spend trillions of federal dollars to goose the economy. But if anything, the truth might be the exact opposite. Federal spending, such as the latest round of stimulus checks and additional unemployment support of $300 a week, in addition to the state unemployment benefits that people get, is surely adding demand to the economy as people spend it perhaps on new gadgets, although maybe some of it's going on Bitcoin or other exotic investments. It's increasing demand, but it's not increasing supply. In fact, by encouraging people to stay at home rather than find a job, it's actually reducing labour supply. A lot of Americans are getting more in stimulus money, tax refunds and unemployment benefits right now than they'd be earning in a job. It's no wonder employers can't persuade them to come to work. Democrats, of course, claim that their next round of big spending will improve the nation's infrastructure and expand the economy's capacity. But if you look at the detail, you can see that most of this spending is not infrastructure spending at all. It's yet more government largesse and payoffs to labour unions. The Biden spending binge may, in fact, just prove to be the most ill-timed, ill-directed fiscal policy in decades. Well, let's go to Blake Berman live at the White House with how the president is responding to today's disappointing report. Blake.
Hi there, Jerry. Good evening. The White House is making a twofold argument today. First off, they're saying don't necessarily look at just 1 month. It's one data point, they say. Instead, they're pointing to the past 3-month stretch, the first 3 months of the Biden administration, in which there has been an average of more than 500,000 jobs created monthly. They are also saying because there have been continued job gains, they believe it shows the American Rescue Plan is working. And today, the president continued his push for more spending.
The American Rescue Plan is just that, a rescue plan. It's to get us back to where we were, but that's not nearly enough. We have to build back better. That's why we need the American Jobs Plan I proposed.
But the White House has also been facing questions today about whether the weekly $300 federal unemployment plus-up is actually a hindrance to growth in this country right now. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce came out today and said that they feel that $300 government benefit should be scrapped. Here's what they said in part in a statement, quote, "This disappointing jobs report makes it clear that paying people not to work is dampening what should be a stronger jobs market. We need a comprehensive approach to dealing with our workforce issues and the very real threat unfilled positions pose to our economic recovery from the pandemic." President Biden was asked about this today. He said he does not think the federal plus-up has a measurable impact on what is happening. Here was the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, as well, when she was asked about it.
Starting up an economy again, trying to get it back on track after a pandemic in which there are a lot of supply bottlenecks is going to be, I think, a bumpy process. But I really don't think the major factor is the extra unemployment.
Jerry, according to the Labor Department, of those who said they are unemployed, 43% say they have been unemployed for at least 27 weeks. Jerry?
Blake, thanks very much. Well, joining me now is Steve Forbes, Forbes Media Chairman. Steve, thanks for being here.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So the president says, perhaps unsurprisingly, that the disappointing, weaker jobs growth that we saw in April and the tick up of the unemployment rate, it's all good justification for spending even more money on the economy. What do you think?
Just the opposite. The two big obstacles are, and you've touched on them, one of those doing up the unemployment benefits. As you know, the governor of Montana has said the state's not going to take any more of those extra benefits come June. When they expire in September, you're going to find a lot of Democrats are not going to vote to renew because of these labor shortages. The other thing is going to be bearing more and more on the economy. If the president has any success with these spending binge plans he has and massive increases in taxes, if they did nothing, this economy would be really roaring ahead. Jobs would be fulfilled, and ultimately, those who are collecting unemployment benefits would end up with more as the economy picks up steam and they get real raises, not artificial ones from the government.
What do you make of Janet Yellen's explanation that look, restarting an economy after it's been shut down like this, businesses, especially businesses that have closed and are maybe reopening, they don't quickly rehire, they can't, they have to go through all kinds of obstacles, raising money, maybe regulations, and it's that explains the slowdown in employment growth?
This economy has been recovering very, very nicely as these lockdowns have been eased. So that's nonsense. And the fact that so many employers are begging people to come to work shows that it's not bottlenecks or these other artificial things she's talking about. It's the fact that government is paying people not to work. And a lot of people, summertime coming, are doing just that, not working. Again, the government is the obstacle, not anything structural changes in the American economy or recovering from COVID. The recovery would be swift if the government got out of the way.
Another factor, Steve, may be, and is cited, I think, in some surveys, that the fact that schools are still not back to full class, kids being back in classes, still a lot of virtual learning because teachers' unions have insisted on keeping them out of school. Essentially, that's making it life difficult for a lot of parents who can't really work especially if they have smaller children and they're at home. And I think that's been affecting a lot of women in particular. That's another factor, isn't it? Which again, thanks to the Democratic supporting Labour teachers' unions, is actually holding back recovery.
That's right, and that's going to really impact in the fall if we have the prospect that the kids are going to still be home. And that's the huge scandal, and I hope the Republicans hammer it on more and more than they have. There's no scientific justification whatsoever for keeping those kids out of the classroom. That's been evident for over a year. The experiences in Europe and Asia and elsewhere have shown that putting the kids in the classroom does not contribute to COVID. In fact, what makes COVID worse is having the kids home and the health effects that has on family, on the kids, not only their development, but what it does in terms of stresses on the home front, because parents have to stay home who otherwise would be in the workforce. That all contributes to a bad public health result. And that's why, again, if the government just get out of the way and let this recovery proceed and get the unions stop blackmailing the Democrats, because the Democrats almost look like they're a subsidiary of the teachers' unions. It's ridiculous. And what it does to young people is a true moral scandal.
And just very briefly, Steve, we've seen employers offering really significant wage increases, bonuses, trying to lure workers back, maybe, to offer them more than they're getting from their unemployment benefits and their government stimulus checks. That's pushing up wage costs. And it's every CEO I speak to says their costs are rising and that this is going to have an effect on inflation.
It's going to have effect on prices because this hurts productivity. People getting more wages, you get that with productivity. So it doesn't contribute to inflation and things like that. So again, get these artificial barriers out of the way, and the American people will show the world what a free people can achieve. But so far, the government has just become an obstacle rather than a facilitator.
Steve Forbes, thanks very much for joining us. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you, Jerry.